The police officer slid my folder back across the desk and said, "You know those are different license plates, right?" And that was the moment I stopped being sure anyone believed me. I had spent 3 months photographing the same car. At least, I thought it was the same car. Same faded blue paint, same crack in the left taillight, same dent above the rear wheel, same sun-bleached bumper sticker that looked like a fish skeleton. I had over 100 photos by then. Different locations, different times, different plates, apparently. I remember staring at the folder and feeling embarrassed more than scared, like I'd become one of those people who fills notebooks with coincidences. The thing is, I hadn't started out that way. The first time I saw the car, it actually mattered. About 8 months before all this, I was driving home from a late shift. There was construction on the highway, so traffic was being funneled through a frontage road. I ended up behind an old blue sedan. Nothing unusual about it. Then a pickup came flying up behind both of us. The sedan swerved onto the shoulder. The pickup followed. At first I thought it was road rage. Then I saw someone get out of the pickup holding what looked like a metal bar. I pulled over farther back. The whole thing happened fast. Shouting, movement. Somebody went down. Then both vehicles took off. The sedan first. The pickup after it. By the time police arrived, all I could really provide was a description of the blue car, because it had been directly in front of me. I remembered it clearly. The dent. The bumper sticker. The broken taillight. I gave a statement. A detective called me once or twice afterward. Then months passed. I assumed nothing came of it. Then one Tuesday morning, I walked out of work and saw the blue sedan parked across the street. Same damage. Same sticker. I actually smiled because I thought maybe I'd finally get a plate number. By the time I crossed the street, it was gone. I figured I was unlucky. A week later, I saw it again at a gas station. Different neighborhood. I was pumping gas. It rolled through the lot. I left the nozzle hanging and started walking toward it. The driver turned out onto the road before I got halfway there. That annoyed me more than anything. Then I saw it again 2 days later in a grocery store parking lot. Then outside my apartment. Then parked near a restaurant where I was meeting friends. Not every day, just often enough to get under my skin. I'd spot it and immediately start looking for details. Every time it matched. Every time it disappeared before I could get close. My friends thought it was funny at first. Maybe it's your soulmate car. Maybe you're in love with a Honda. Stuff like that. Then I started taking pictures. Then I started keeping notes. Locations. Times. Directions of travel. Gas station receipts to verify dates. The joke stopped. One night I was reviewing photos on my laptop and noticed something weird. The dent wasn't identical. It was close, really close. But in some pictures it sat slightly higher on the panel. I convinced myself it was the camera angle. The next week I noticed the bumper sticker looked newer in one image than another. Again, I explained it away. Sunlight, compression, distance. Meanwhile, the sightings kept happening. What got me wasn't just seeing the car. It was the context. I'd leave work early for an appointment. There it was. I'd take a random route home. There it was. I drove 2 hours to visit my brother. There it was at a convenience store 20 minutes outside his town. I began checking my mirrors constantly, looking behind me at stoplights, changing routes. Not because I thought the driver wanted to hurt me. I didn't know what I thought. I just couldn't understand why this car kept appearing around me. The detective who had taken my statement eventually returned one of my emails. We met at a coffee shop. I showed him the photos. He spent maybe 5 minutes looking through them before saying, "These aren't all the same vehicle." I remember feeling irritated. Look closer. He did. Then he frowned, not because he agreed, because he seemed confused. They're the same make and model, and the same damage. Not exactly. He tapped one image, then another. Tiny differences. The crack shape, the sticker position, details I hadn't noticed. I went home angry. For a while, I convinced myself people were just missing the obvious. Then things became harder to dismiss. One afternoon, I saw the car parked outside my apartment building. I grabbed my keys and ran downstairs. It was still there. For the first time ever, it hadn't disappeared. I got within maybe 20 feet. Someone was sitting inside reading something. Then another blue sedan drove past on the street. Same color, same damage, same sticker. I turned to look. When I looked back, the parked car was pulling away. I actually laughed, not because it was funny, because my brain couldn't process what I'd just seen. Two of them. For a few seconds, I wondered if I'd imagined the first one. Then I checked the photo I'd snapped. It was there. Two separate cars. My notes got messier after that. I started noticing more inconsistencies. The damage shifted. The sticker aged and unaged. One car had a slightly darker rear bumper. Another had different wheel covers. But unless I was actively searching for differences, they looked identical. I reported everything anyway. Nobody seemed interested. A patrol officer suggested I stop documenting it for a while because it was feeding the obsession. Maybe he was right. I tried. For almost 3 weeks, I ignored every sighting. Then I walked into a pharmacy and found a blue sedan parked directly beside my car. I stood there for a full minute staring at it. The driver looked at me through the windshield. Just looked. Not threatening, not smiling, nothing. Then they backed out and left. I wrote down the plate. For the first time, I got one, before the car vanished. The plate led nowhere useful, registered, legal, owned by a woman in another county. The detective checked. No connection to the assault case, no criminal history, nothing. Around then, I started wondering whether somebody was deliberately messing with me. It sounded ridiculous, but it made more sense than random coincidence. The problem was scale. One person couldn't be driving the same car everywhere. Multiple people could. But why would they? I went back to the original incident, dug through old emails, retrieved copies of my statement, requested public records. Most of it was routine bureaucracy. Then I noticed something odd. References to the blue sedan became less specific as the investigation progressed. Early reports mentioned the dent and sticker. Later reports described only a blue vehicle. It looked like details had been removed. I don't know if that means anything. Maybe it's standard procedure, but it bothered me. Then came the footage. I still think about that day all the time. A friend of mine worked in municipal traffic systems. Not law enforcement, just infrastructure. I convinced him to help me review archived camera recordings from a day when I had logged 2 sightings unusually close together. I wanted proof I wasn't losing my mind. We spent hours searching. Finally, he found one. There was the sedan crossing an intersection downtown at 2:14 p.m. I felt vindicated for maybe 5 seconds. Then, he opened another camera feed. Same minute, different part of the city. Another sedan, same color, same sticker. Same dent. Simultaneous. I remember leaning closer to the monitor because I thought I was misunderstanding something. We pulled additional feeds. 3 cars. Then 4. One heading north. One parked outside a shopping center. Another entering a parking garage. All matching. All active within the same window. My friend stopped joking around after that. Okay, he said. That's weird. Weird wasn't the word. It was impossible in a way that made my stomach hurt. Not supernatural impossible. Human impossible. Coordinated, deliberate. Somebody had recreated the same vehicle repeatedly. The question was why. The answer came from a source I can't fully verify. That's part of what still bothers me. A man contacted me after I posted anonymously on a forum asking about vehicle clothing. He didn't claim anything dramatic. He simply asked whether the car had a fish skeleton sticker and damage above the rear wheel. I didn't answer immediately. He described the rest without my help. Then he told me he'd seen the same thing years earlier. Different city, different circumstances. According to him, the real purpose wasn't surveillance. It was memory contamination. If enough identical versions of a vehicle appear repeatedly, eyewitness certainty erodes. Descriptions become unreliable. Timelines blur. Investigators stop trusting witnesses. Eventually, the witness stops trusting themselves. I wanted to dismiss him. Then he sent photographs. Different state. Same car. Or one of them. Maybe. I don't know any war. I kept digging. The original assault case had connections I hadn't known about. Businesses, contractors, local officials. Nothing movie villain dramatic. Just people with money and influence. The sort of people who could quietly hire others. The sort of people who might care whether a witness remained credible. I never found proof. Not the kind that matters. No email. No confession. No document explaining anything. Just patterns. Too many. Patterns. After the traffic camera discovery, the sightings changed. They became more obvious. Less cautious. Sometimes I'd see two in the same parking lot. Once I counted 3 during a single commute. It felt less like stalking and more like demonstration. As if someone wanted me to understand the scale of what was happening, or wanted me to think that. That's the trap, I guess. Every explanation starts sounding paranoid after a while. Last year I moved. Different city, different job. For several months I didn't see any blue sedans. I started sleeping better, stopped checking mirrors, stopped photographing parking lots. Then one rainy evening I walked out of a grocery store and saw one parked 3 spaces away. Same dent, same sticker, same faded paint. I didn't approach it. I just stood there holding a bag of groceries. The driver never looked up. After a minute, I got into my own car and left. I never checked whether it followed me. I didn't want to know. What stays with me now isn't the possibility that somebody watched me. It's the effort involved. Think about what it takes to manufacture uncertainty on that scale. The time, the coordination, the number of people willing to participate. Sometimes I still open the folder on my computer. Hundreds of photos. Hundreds of sightings. Different plates, different owners, different cars pretending to be the same car. And every so often, I notice a detail I missed before. Last month it was the fish skeleton sticker. In most photos it sits slightly crooked. In a few, it's perfectly level, like someone had copied the mistake without understanding that the mistake was part of the original. The first car I ever saw that night on the frontage road had a crooked sticker, which means whoever recreated it wasn't copying a vehicle, they were copying a witness's memory of a vehicle. And that realization makes me wonder whether some of the people driving those cars had access to things I never told anyone.